Hi, it's Tricia here at Club Scrap, and I'm so excited to show you the Club Stamp project for June, the Dreamcatcher. And you know what they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words, so a video, even better. Let's get started. Ever since my parents moved to Arizona and we had more of an exposure to Native American art, I've loved Dreamcatchers. They've always fascinated me, but I thought it would be impossible to learn how to make them. Well, it turns out it's not impossible. We're gonna make one together. I'm just gonna guide you through a couple of the basic steps, but it's very repetitive and very relaxing. So let's get started with our Dreamcatcher. This is the one that Kay and I did while we were shooting the step outs for your project card. But we can get started on the raw materials and we're gonna make it happen. With our gold ring, I think this is a 7-inch ring, and we're using this just gorgeous ribbon. And it's nice because it has a wide, flat width. It's really pliable, super easy to use. And we just need to get started. Now there is a seam on the ring. If you want, you can tie the ribbon at the seam where the ring was welded together. That's entirely up to you. It's so subtle. I just did a little double knot here at the top. This is my top of the ring. Okay, next, all you'll do, and this will take a little while, is start to wrap the ribbon around the ring. And I just kind of keep it in a pile as I loop my way around, and as I'm going around, I just try to flatten the ribbon as I go so that you're getting the most mileage out of your ribbon. Now I left about a 6-inch tail at the top so that I have something with which to hang the Dreamcatcher once I'm done going all the way around. And you'll tie those two ends together. So you get to see how this works now. This is not difficult at all. And as you're winding, the variegated color of this really pretty ribbon begins to reveal itself. I just love the final look of this. So all you need to do now is go round and round until you reach where the place where you started. Okay, so I've made my way all the way around the ring and I've reached my starting point where my knot exists. And I have a long tail still left of ribbon, which is nice because I can use that a little bit later. And now I have two tails, the one I started with and the one I ended with, and I'll just tie those together just like you do when you tie your shoes. And now your ring is wrapped. And then just take a scissors, and I'm going to trim the tail to an equal length. Save this beauty though, save that for later. And you can take the two ends, the two ribbon tails that you have, and I just tied them in a loop. You can do this however you want. I mean, there's no right or wrong at all. And that way I can hang my Dreamcatcher from the pretty ribbon at the top. Okay? Next, we're going to be using our wax linen thread. It's a wonderful material for making the Dreamcatcher. That's not what the Native Americans use, but this is a product that is accessible to us. You're familiar with it, and it doesn't knot very easily, but unless you really wanted to. So it's just a great material for creating the web of our Dreamcatcher. I've taken a beading needle. Now you probably have needles at home too. I'm choosing a needle with a narrower eye, but if you only have like a tapestry needle with a larger eye, it's not a problem. The only thing is that you'll just have to remove the needle if you want to add beads to your web. Okay, so let's start with our wax linen, and this starting point with our knot at the top here will also be the starting point for our wax linen. So I'm just taking the thread and tying a knot right at the top where my other knot is for the ribbon. Okay, now what we're going to do is start our first round around the ring, and we're going to make a stitch about 2 inches from where my knot exists here at the top. So to help me with my measuring, I mean, this really doesn't have to be incredibly accurate, but I want to make my next stitch about that far. Here's my 2 inches using my ruler, about that far from my original. Okay, so here's my thread, and I'm just going to hold it about 2 inches from my initial knot. Okay, that's my first stitch. I'm going over the top of the ring with it, and then I'm going to bring the needle up from underneath, going between the ring and the thread, and then I'll just pull it tight. So it's going to stretch straight across. I don't know if you can see this. This is really kind of hard to explain, difficult to see. But there it's stretching straight across, about 2 inches apart from the knot to my next loop. So I'm stretching this across, going over the ring, and then bringing the needle in between the ring and my thread. And then I'll just readjust my thread so it's looping at about 2 inches. And now I have 2 loops around the ring. Back over the top of the ring, bring my needle between the ring and the stitch to make my loop. And just continue your way all the way around until you get back to the top. Now that we've made our way around the entire ring, the stitch changes just slightly, but it's still super easy. And once you get started with what we're doing, it's going to be no problem. We're at the top, right where our knot is, right where everything started. Then this would be our first stitch, right? Well, let's go into our second stitch. There's that little opening between the ring and the stitch. Let's take the needle and bring it in between those things, coming from the back to the front. And I just brought it up, and I'm not going to pull it tight, but did you see how it just creates this loop of thread going around? Then you drop the needle down into that loop of thread, and when you start pulling it, it's making a loop around our second stitch. And I'm going to aim for the middle of that stitch and then pull it tight. You can see the web just started to form. Now I'm going to go from this spot on my second stitch right in the center there. I'm going to move then to the next one. So bringing my needle under, pull it, and when I pulled it, it creates this little circle. I can drop my needle through. I'm aiming for the middle now of that stitch, and when I pull it, you can start to see that web form. Isn't that cool? Oh, I love it. Okay, we'll do it one more time together. Underneath, pull, and then you made your little loop, drop the needle through, pull, aim for the middle, and just grab that. Neat. I'm going to go around one full time, and then we're going to show you one other thing you need to do while you're doing your stitching. So I've made it all the way around, and now I've split my last spot here in half with my thread, and now I have created another row of stitches all the way around that I will then stitch into just like I have been doing all along. Now we've included in your kit, we've included some beads, some larger beads, some focal beads, and so as you're working you can actually grab a bead and throw it on your needle. Now again, if you're using a beading needle or a needle designed with a smaller eye, then you're able to thread the bead onto the linen thread without having to remove the needle, which is kind of convenient. So you can start attaching those beads. Even with this needle, I had to remove it in order to attach the larger focal beads. And you can attach these randomly, or I would say randomly is going to yield the best results. Now I want to show you one other kind of fun thing that we did. This is a little word that I've actually cut from one of the die cut tags. And I wanted to stitch some words into the Dreamcatcher because it's unique that as stampers, we have all of this art that we have access to. So into my word, just stitch in and out of it. I pierced it on either side. And now I have the word love stitched into my Dreamcatcher, and I just continue on as before, going underneath the stitch, pulling a little bit to create our loop, and then drop the needle through the loop, and then pull it tight. Isn't that cute? I like that in there. It's so nice. Keep going around and around until you are happy with how it looks. If you leave a little bit of thread, at the end, then you'll be able to use it for other finishing ideas. For example, on our finished version, just 2 short lengths of thread were used to attach a little stamped panel, which is really sweet. And then taking the leftover thread, just tied 2 little bows onto the linen as an accent. When you're finishing off your Dreamcatcher in the center, you know, you've gone all the way around many times and you reach a spot where you just need to stop, you just tie a knot. Here you can see it's very, very small, but there's a little knot behind that word. I mean, you just tie it off and trim the tail. And because of the nature of wax linen thread, those little knots work great. They stay put, they don't move anywhere, they don't come undone. And then you have a nice, stable, beautiful Dreamcatcher to hang in your bedroom. Well, sweet dreams to all of you. Happy creating.